Hey, Steve Reed here with Vector. I'm going to take you through a little bit of the process of what it looks like to actually create a brand from scratch. And today I'm going to be showing you kind of the results of some of those things. I'm not going to go totally back into all the original documents and things we used to get to this point, but I'll explain a little bit of how it works. And I don't often really show the sausage being made on any of the videos that I post. And so this is kind of a unique dive into my actual process and how it works and what's involved with it. So with that, let's move ahead. Now, every brand architecture I create, although there are similarities, there are also differences depending on the client, their customers, and what they need. And so there can be some pretty dramatic differences in what the brand architecture contains. Now, there are some solid foundational pieces that you're going to find in every brand architecture, but there are variances. Usually, there's always going to be a brand story. I really like having that as the foundation of the brand because it helps us identify who kind of the target audience is and what their motivations are, with the problems that they find themselves in, and how our business is going to help come in and act as the guide to help them achieve their goal and position the customer as the hero of the story. And so I think it's very important. It helps to create a real powerful emotional connection between what the business is providing and what the customer is looking for. And so we're always going to have a section that defines what our brand is. This is giving the heart, soul, and personality of the brand its own place to be documented and recorded so that you can refer to it anytime you want. And so it really sinks in what this brand is all about. We always have a section about our target audience, and sometimes we have one persona, sometimes we have two personas or more, but usually it's about one or two to start off with. And this brand has two personas, and there's an important reason for that. There's usually a little marketing section, and for some clients is more robust. Then we look at the competition. We want to see who our competition is, how we stack up against them, and what our strategy is going to be to compete. And then we look into the visual identity. And this section includes a lot of stuff. There's a lot of work that goes into creating all of this. And then this is just a section about usage and requirements and like that. All right. So let's dig in. The first part of this section of this architecture is about the brand story. I usually put a little model of the story brand framework here. So it's a easy reminder of what this is all about. And then we come in here and we look at our setup. So I've divided the brand story into three portions, like a 3-act play. We have the setup, the encounter, and the resolution. Now, there are some aspects of this architecture that we're still planning on working out. This is a living document that can change over time and should, because your business is not static, right? And so we know that we have this hero, and they're smart homeowners that care about the energy efficiency and aesthetics of their homes' windows. What do they want? The right windows at the right price. And this exact phrase was actually pulled from interviews that I conducted with members of the target audience when I was asking them about how they found themselves in their particular situation, what was going on around them in the world that was influencing their thoughts, and just trying to get an idea of what prompts them to act. What do they do when they realize that they have a problem? What types of things do they research? And so there's a lot of questions that we go into. It's a really fun process. And so we always try to weave a villain into play because there is a villain. Sometimes that villain can be hard to identify. This one was fairly easy. We're just referring to it as bad windows, right? You know when your windows are bad because they fog up, they stop working right, they let in cold air, the seals begin to dry up or malfunction. You see that fog. Have you ever seen that in some of your windows? And you go to wipe it off and you go, oh, that's inside the window. I can't get rid of it. That's the first sign that your windows are compromised. And over time, as the windows in your house start going bad, it can lead to massive energy loss, and your house isn't going to be hot when you want it to be hot, cool when you want it to be cool. Your air conditioner is going to work overtime. It can just cause a lot of problems. There's basically three problems that our villain causes for our hero. They're external, internal, and philosophical problems. And so we try to identify what those things are. Now, sometimes this can seem kind of goofy, right? Oh, what a villain. But sometimes it makes a lot of sense to play off the villain. You look at like Mucinex commercials where you have the little booger guy that lives in your lungs. You have, I think it's Allstate who uses Mayhem. The Mayhem guy's like, I'm Mayhem and I'm causing all these problems in your life. They do a really great job of portraying the villain in a way that almost creates like a cartoon version, an abstract version of the actual problem to where you can understand it. Then when you're having your problem, you're like, oh, it's that villain again. And so it's very clever how they do that. And so sometimes we use this and we play it really hard, and other times we refer to it indirectly. So there's different ways you can play off the villain. Sometimes it's not the strongest part of your messaging, if that makes sense. But there are other ways that you can address the problem and the issues that the villain creates by highlighting these issues. There's a lot of strategy behind that, and it depends on a case-by-case basis. And then they come and they meet a guide, right? And we show empathy. We know that purchasing windows for your home is a big decision. It can be very frustrating. There's a lot of things that come into play. And then we give them a plan. So we have a very simple plan, 3-step plan, and we go from there. And so sometimes these sections will be a lot more fleshed out. It just kind of depends. But since we were starting from scratch, we kept everything relatively simple. There's just one main call to action, book a direct consultation. But in the future, we could offer things like free downloads, webinars, videos. There's all kinds of transitional calls to action that you can do. And recently, I've actually been dividing up these calls to action into the 3 different stages of the user's journey. That's been working pretty well. So then we have the resolution, the success, the failure, and then the character transformation. So we detail that out. And so the story can be a very useful thing to use. And then sometimes we'll just throw some graphics and things in here. Then our brand defined, who we are, what we stand for. We are the guide, our customers, the heroes. The whole concept and methodology of the story brand fit very well into this company and what they were trying to do for their customers. The owners of this company, after talking with them, these guys are very, very committed to making sure their customers get the best of what they can offer. And I love working with clients of mine like that who deeply, deeply care about providing the highest level of service to their customers. It was a pleasure to work with these guys. So we kept our mission and vision very simple. And the whole thing about this brand is simplicity, because we know that, putting windows in your home, it sounds like a big, complicated process. There's all this construction and there's just, it's kind of overwhelming. It's expensive. You've got a lot of people entering your sacred space, your home, and messing with your life. So everything about this was just, we're keeping it very, very simple, right? Brand positioning, the value proposition's very simple, right windows at the right price. This is our positioning statement and our product truth. And we have our brand values. These are the things that the company stands for that also resonate with the customer and what they're looking for as well. And we go through a brand personality quiz. It's kind of like a personality test, but for your business. And what we do is we try to ascribe a specific kind of personality to the business as well. And so oftentimes, whenever we score pretty high for one archetype and fairly high for another, I will do what I call brand archetype synthesis, where I'll take the characteristics of both brands, the primary, and then I'll weave in any of the secondary characteristics into that personality archetype that I think would be of value. Our brand archetype here is about 2 basic human desires, which is understanding and mastery, the heroic sage. That's a blend of the hero and the sage archetype. And so this is what's on brand for this particular business, and these are the types of things that are off brand. So let's continue on here. We have our voice and tone. And so we're knowledgeable, but we're not patronizing. We're guiding, but not manipulative. And we just kind of go down this list. This is just a reminder of who we are and what we're about. And this is how we want our voice and tone to be perceived by individuals. So this helps with copywriting and generating content and the way that should be delivered. Now we come down to our buyer personas. And so here we have, this is Kevin Fielding and Kelly Parker. This is what we've given them as names. These personas are basically an amalgamation of, and I fixed this on the last one. I haven't published the new PDF. There's always a little hanging out there. These are basically stereotypes, and I don't mean stereotypes in a negative sense, but they're the stereotypical type of customer that they're aiming at. Then we analyze the competition. And some of this, I don't want the competition getting hold of this video and giving away some of our insights, but these are the competitors that this company is dealing with. And so one of the things I look at just from a visual identity standpoint is that when we go to create our logo, we want to create something that isn't going to be confused with some of these other guys, right? We don't want to create something that confuses our customers and makes them think that we are associated with another company. I mean, even you got Renewal and Apex, they both got green. These guys got red. This yellow really stands out, and blue. So we see a wide selection of colors here. Some of the colors that we don't see would be maybe purple, orange, and then there's, browns, and you can go straight up black and white. I mean, there's other things you can do, but we made the decision to go with an orange color because we felt like the name of the company was Energy Home Improvements, and the color orange is often associated with energy, but we didn't want to go with like an electric orange. So we went with something that was a soft orange. I don't know how it appears in this video. Sometimes the color can be off here, but these are the colors we decided to go with. Now in the visual identity portion, the first thing we do is figure out what our visual identity is going to look like. And let me switch over here to the Stylescape. So once we have all that information, there's a lot of data that has to go to, and we interview customers and people, and we get into their heads a little bit. But we take a look at everything we know about them, and then we try to craft a visual identity that fits the messaging and the personality of the brand that we're going with. And so this Stylescape is just a very simple depiction of the general overall vibe that you should get from Energy Home Improvements. This can very easily be used as a model to create social media posts, websites, print graphics. It gives you an idea of how all these little graphical elements and things look. You'll notice the rounded corners. Everything about the brand is very soft, and it's not intimidating in any way. Even the direction, when we were first coming up with these kind of lines that go this way, one of my designers had the lines going down like this. And I was like, no, have them always go from the bottom left to the upper right. Because typically when you read stock charts and everything, if you see a line going down like that, this is bad, right? We want to see lines going up. And so that upward momentum is something that we want to convey. So there's little details like that just from doing this for 10,000 years. There are obvious little things to me that I see and we try to build in. There's a lot of little things going on here. Let's come back to our document. So we have our Stylescape, which is very important. We have our fonts that we're using, and then we have a type specimen, and then we have some details about the avatars that we're using, the type of people that we want to display. If we're going to be using photography of individuals, just some guidance on what they should look like, the different types of photography, lifestyle, how we want to convey the windows with people living their lives, casual shots and photos. And then we have our patterns, some of these little graphical patterns that we use. And then we have some breakdowns of the logo. Now the logo is the last portion that we're going to look at, but I'm going to switch over to the logo proposal, because whenever the time comes to present the logo, I go through a process of basically going through every possible combination of variations that you could conceive of that would be great for the logo for the business. And I only present the version of the logo that I feel is the right one. And so I make sure that I look at every single possible variation. And I do research online. I try to look and see if there are any other logos out there that are even similar to what we're putting together. We go and we look at all the competitors. We try to put those up there and go, okay, we need to create something that is dramatically different from everything else that's out there right now. And so that's basically one of the strategies that we employ. And so that alone is very difficult. We go to the U.S. Patent Trademark Office. We look for trademarked logos that are out there that may have a similar style. And there's a lot of research that goes into it, because you don't want to have somebody design a logo for you on Fiverr where they just, and I've seen this so many times, where someone will hire someone to do a cheap logo and they just go Google something and they literally would just rip off and copy another logo and give it to you because they want to get done and get paid as quick as possible. So I don't do that. I never have. It disturbs my soul to do anything like that. And so not only do we do all of that, but it's also very important when you're designing a logo to make sure it's going to be something that is recognizable and also responsive, that it can be put in a variety of different circumstances and still work and still be recognizable. And sometimes it's very important that a logo can be seen from very far away. If you're in a business like this, where you're putting it on a sign, it needs to be something simple enough to where way at a distance, you'd be able to go, oh, I know what that is, and recognize it. So it depends a lot on the context. I've been designing logos since I was 13 years old. I think I was 13 when I did my first logo for a dial-up internet service provider. If you know what that is, you're as old as I am, so congratulations. But we looked at these competitors again, and we saw some things we liked, some things we didn't quite like. We felt this was maybe a little bit too complicated for what we were trying to do. It's very descriptive. It's a guy holding a window. That's great and all. Window World, this one seems very dated. I personally am not too happy with that. Pella, very creative. The yellow circle, it could be done as a sticker, put it around. You see it everywhere. It's great. Apex, okay. These featured a little house in them. And this one looks like clip art. And this one's simple. It's not too bad, but it's very readable. When you see it, you know what it is. But we were really wanting to do something maybe with a little bit of house, but we don't want to feel like we're copying other people or being too cliche. And so let's just go through the process here. Let's look at what we got. The name of the company is Energy Home Improvements, right? And so we're all right. Let's look at what energy brings up. And we started thinking, well, there's solar panels. And solar panels were definitely an aspect of this company and what they offer. They don't want to lead with that, though. They typically try to solve the window problem first. And then if solar ends up becoming a potential solution, they kind of weave that in. And so the strategy was not to necessarily lead with solar as well. They wanted to be seen primarily for their strategy with windows because that's where they specialize. So we have these solar panels. So I just started looking at icons and things. And then we have a home, obviously. And then how do we indicate improvement? And again, that upward motion indicates improvement. Also just arrows pointing up, different things like that. So then we combine a lot of these visual metaphors and explore the geometry. And then we start crafting something. And once I go through the strategy of the logo and how we came up with the concept, then I get right into immediately showing the logo in the context of where it would be seen. We have our hats and our swag. We have signs and we have potential business cards. Always do some stickers. I always do a hat. I love hats, right? And so it's always fun to see. Having your logo on a hat is just epic, right? And then, social media, what some of that could look like. And then this just kind of shows some of the creativity here where we have this house with solar panels, and the E kind of subtly indicates that there are solar panels on the house. And this house down here was kind of crafted to be a sneaky little upward arrow. So you have energy with the E and the solar panels. That's all the energy, and it's black. And that goes along with the black portion here, Energy Home. And then improvements is orange and fits with this orange logo. So the whole thing fits together very well. And let's see how it looks with our competition. Now, the text is very bold. It stands out. We have an icon, even though it's using the shape of a house. These guys are using the shape of a house as well. But we didn't put a chimney or anything on there, but we have solar panels. We have a window. And this is kind of meant to convey a little bit more of an arrow in motion rather than just being, a house in a circle, or it looks like a QR code in a barn dominium or something like that. And so I feel like this pulled together really well. And then we have how the logo could be displayed on different backgrounds. We always want to see what it looks like on dark and light backgrounds. And this one in particular, whenever it's on dark, we put a line around it like this. It just looks better. And so if you have a solid white version, it can look like this, which isn't too bad. But one of the main things that this little thing does here is if you're going to center this logo and this little barb is out here, as you can see, the logo would be always slightly off center. And it's so small, it's better to center the logo right here rather than have it get centered over like that. So if you put it in a square like this, it solves the problem. And then other people who are using the logo can center it easily, and there aren't going to be any issues. But we have this version too in case we need it for something, but it's just important to take note of those things. And then we have some other variations of how the logo could be displayed with this proposal. And then once we have that proposal in place, we put clear space around the logo. So if this is going to be made into a sign, an individual could see that this space X here equals 2 of these ends right there. And they would be able to put that sign up on a building and use those measurements to determine that particular distance. And so it's important to think about those types of things. There's also a list of logo no-nos. You never do these things with the logo in any way. Although we have these rules here, sometimes people do not follow those rules, which is why you need someone to manage your brand and make sure that you can enforce those types of things overall. So we're going to take a look at the website now. So if you remember from our Stylescape, we have this kind of look and feel, these rounded edges. We're using our primary color on action buttons and things, and we're using our little energy rays up here. And the nice thing is people read, they usually start here and go right, and they read like this. And so we've got this kind of nice flow that takes the eye here. You got boom, call to action, and then boom, call to action. And that's what we want. We want to get people to act. So we've designed the flow there. This is the dream outcome here, right? A beautiful, energy efficient home that you can be proud of. And we have our value proposition here, get the right windows and doors at the right price. And then this is actually our H1 tag and replacement home and windows and doors. So this helps with SEO. And this is just literally what it is. And so there's a strategy there. And then we have some additional messaging, right? Say goodbye to bad windows, ugly doors, and energy loss. You want to get back to enjoying your home ASAP. So we make the process straightforward and pain-free. Start by requesting one of our no pressure consultations. And all of this language is derived from what we learned and established in the brand architecture. So we come down here and we have our 3-step plan, if you remember. So you request a consultation, discover the best solution, and enjoy your new windows and doors. And so it's always great to have a plan. And a lot of the websites I build, they'll have this 3-step plan. Easy as 1, 2, 3, ABC. And when you make it really simple for people, you're communicating to them that you're saving them time, you're saving them effort. And there's a really cool value equation that was developed by Alex Hormozi. And he talks about the importance of driving down 2 main factors, which are the time it takes to do something and the effort it's going to take from you. And so something as simple as having a 3-step plan is another way to reinforce that it's saving you time, saving you effort. And then down here, there's a lady in her kitchen. Look at her face. She's so happy with her new windows, and she's texting her friends because everybody loves validation. We text people all the time. We go on a social media. We share our stuff because we want people to go, oh, that's wonderful for you and everything. It's true. This is what people do. And so we're just simply illustrating this ideal experience of being able to say, hey, our brand new windows are in. Oh, wow. How do they turn out? I'll send some pics. Everybody would love to show off something new and fun that is going on in their life. And so we hit on that. Now, for the testimonials section, we did something unique here. What we did is we looked at the top 5 concerns, right? The top 5 concerns that people had. This was taken from our customer interviews. And we didn't say, what are your top 5 concerns? What we did is we addressed overall concerns and we mined that information. We looked for patterns and we said, okay, here's what came up the most. Here's what seems like it had the greatest impact. And we lined those things up and we came up with 5 things. And the most important thing is people wanted the best quality at the best rates. So what we did is we put this statement up here that we created along with the testimonial that went with that point. So we strategically use testimonials to go along with these things. So what we're doing is we are diffusing concerns. And so we're taking the concerns that people may have and we're using testimonials to resolve them right there in the moment. And so we have 5 right here. Damage to exterior finishes was a big thing. And these guys are really good at causing very minimal to no damage to the outside exterior. They are very big on fast, efficient communication, and that was a concern. And so all the things that the company was trying to do well, it really meshed with the real concerns that people had. The last one's a question about warranties. And so, boom, we hit these things up right here. We make this bigger because we know they're going to hit that first. So there's a visual hierarchy when it comes to content. And so we want people to hit, even if they're just skimming the page, we want them to skim here and read these important things. They may not even read the entire testimonial, but if they get the idea, hey, we prevent damage, we're good communicators, and we got those, that's all they need to know, right? Because people skim. And then it's very important to note that they are locally owned and operated, and this is where they're operating out of right now. So they have a very specific area in which they operate. We've highlighted some of the main cities so that people get an idea, hey, this is a local company, and maybe I can get a really great deal from these guys. They're not one of these big, giant national companies. They're probably going to take more care of my house and do a better job. And then at the very end here, we have request consultation, and there's some social stuff down here, but we've kept the footer very minimal because we don't want it to distract from here. And we have a high contrast form. It's very casual. What's your first name and your last name? What's a good email address? What's your phone number? Anything else you'd like to ask? So even the contact form itself is very kind of casual. It communicates very well, and it gives a preview of what it's going to be like to work with them. And instead of just saying submit, all done, submit my request. So it's very conversational. It's very nice and unintimidating. And you'll notice that the design of this page, check this out. So this was done intentionally. You'll notice that it all comes down to a V, that it's specifically designed to get narrower and narrower as you go down the page. And that's done psychologically to paint a picture, and then slowly it gets more focused and more focused and more focused and more focused until this is really the last thing to do. This is the end. And so there's nothing else distracting them over here. We're using the white space very effectively, I think. Instead of building out a whole website, what I was trying to do is to save these guys money by not building anything more than I thought that they needed at the time. We can build a big old website with all this content, but collecting all that content, getting a bunch of photos and everything, it'd be way too time consuming. We'll get all that later, but right now we're like, okay, what do we need right now? We need a minimum viable product to get a website up as quick as possible. And this website was up in a couple of days. And so because we had the brand architecture, because we did all the research, because we did all that work in the beginning, we were able to, bam, put up a site really quick that is laser focused on what they need. Other things we've done is we've looked into their sales process. We completely redesigned their pitch deck that goes on an iPad. We created some flyers for them, some cards, all the tools that they needed to get the business running and off the ground and have everything perfectly dialed in. And we've actually heard from people that have seen their presentation and everything like, wow, you guys, your stuff is way better than the 3 other competitors that we looked at. You're obviously the clear choice. And so it's really great to see these guys growing their business, nailing new clients because they trusted me to handle their brand. And I appreciate that. And to me, that's something very valuable and important. But I want to always do right by my clients and give them what they need. And so I felt like this was a very successful project. And a lot of things came out really, really well on this. But we have a unique, powerful brand. Everything is done strategically to accomplish the goals. And what I would say moving forward for this particular brand is I think it's very important that we track how everything's working. And we constantly focus on how we improve this, right? Now that we have all this in place, what is going to dial it even more, because you can always improve. You can always do better. You can always just dial the effectiveness of what you're doing in. And that's what I really hope to offer to my clients, is to be able to optimize everything that we've created moving forward. So, hey, thanks for following along and learning all about Energy Home Improvements and how we created that brand. Hey, we'll see you next time. Remember, brand or die.